The train chugged to a stop at the small Nevada depot, its whistle echoing across the vast open landscape. Madeline, Maddy Rourke, peered out the window, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. After months of anticipation, the moment had finally arrived. She was about to start a new life as a mail-order bride, leaving behind the bustling streets of Boston for what she hoped would be a loving home with her fiancé, Samuel. As she stepped onto the platform, dust swirled around her like tiny dancers celebrating her arrival. Maddy clutched her small suitcase tightly, feeling the weight of her dreams wrapped inside. She had imagined this moment countless times, how Samuel would greet her with warmth and affection, ready to take her into his arms and whisk her away to their new life together. She had spent hours dreaming of cozy evenings filled with laughter and love, a life far removed from the factory where she had endured scorn and hardship. But as Maddy looked around, she noticed the people rushing past her, each person caught up in their own world, mothers calling after children, ranchers discussing cattle prices, and travelers eagerly awaiting their next journey. A sense of vulnerability washed over her as she felt like an outsider in this spirited crowd. When her eyes finally found Samuel's face in the throng, hope surged within her. He stood a few paces away, hands tucked into his pockets, watching her approach. But instead of the warm smile she expected, his expression shifted to one of disbelief. Maddy's heart sank as she realized that he wasn't moving toward her. He was stepping back. "Samuel?" she called out tentatively, confusion gripping her throat. "Maddy," he replied slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. She could see him taking in her scar, a jagged line that slashed across one side of her fascia, reminder of the fire that had nearly cost her everything. "I came," she said, striving to sound confident despite the tremor in her voice, "just like we talked about." But instead of welcoming her with open arms, Samuel shook his head. I didn't expect." "No one ever does," Maddy interrupted, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had known there would be challenges. She had hoped that love could overcome them. With a look of utter disappointment etched across his features, Samuel turned away from her completely. "I can't do this," he muttered over his shoulder before disappearing into the crowd. Maddy stood frozen for a moment, shock coursing through her veins like ice water. The realization hit hard. She had traveled so far only to be cast aside in an instant. The dreams she had nurtured felt like ashes in her mouth. She glanced down at her suitcase, which now seemed heavier than ever. Feeling utterly alone and exposed in this foreign place, Maddy turned away from where Samuel had vanished. Just as despair threatened to consume her, a man approached slowly from behind. He walked with a pronounced limp. His face bore signs of both age and experience that seemed beyond his years. "Are you all right?" he asked gently, concern deepening the lines on his face. Maddy hesitated, unsure how to respond. I thought I'd find my future here," she managed to say through trembling lips. The man nodded knowingly. "Life can be unpredictable," he replied softly. "But you're not alone." His voice was calm and steady, as if he understood more than he let on. "My name is Jack," he introduced himself with a hint of warmth in his gaze. "And you're Madeline Rourke, aren't you?" Surprised by how he knew her name, Maddy blinked at him. "Yes, but how do you know?" "I've been around," Jack said cryptically. His eyes held stories, untold flickers of battles fought both outside and within oneself. "I've seen worse scars on better men," he continued, taking a step closer. "You're not broken. You're rare." His words broke through Maddy's haze of hurt and shame like sunlight piercing through dark clouds. A flicker of hope ignited within Maddy's heart as she stared into Jack's kind eyes. Here was someone who didn't judge her by her past, but saw strength beneath the surface, a glimmer that reminded her that even after pain came resilience. As they stood together on that dusty platform too, lost souls adrift in a world that didn't seem to carry an unspoken connection, began to form between them. Jack's presence offered comfort amidst chaos. Something inside Maddy whispered that perhaps this encounter could lead to something new. "Where are you headed?" Jack asked gently. "I'm not sure anymore," Maddy admitted quietly, glancing back toward the direction Samuel had gone. "Then let's figure it out together," Jack offered with a reassuring smile that made Maddy feel just a little less alone in this vast world full of uncertainty and scars waiting to heal. Maddy stood frozen on the platform, the dust swirling around her feet, as if mocking her shattered dreams. The bright sun above seemed to mock her feelings of despair, turning the vibrant day into a dull gray. She blinked, trying to process what had just happened. Samuel had seemed like a kind man in their letters, but now he had left her with nothing but her memories and a suitcase filled with clothes and hopes. Turning away from the direction where he had disappeared, she felt a wave of panic rise inside. The crowd bustled around her, laughing and chatting as if nothing was wrong in their world. She was an island of sorrow in a sea of joy. Maddy fought back tears, pushing the emotions down deep inside before they spilled over. She took a shaky breath, focusing on the new beginnings she had dreamt about for so long. But dreams had a way of shattering, didn't they? With every heartbeat, she could feel the weight of her scar pressing down on each heartbeat, a reminder that she was different, marked by an event that had defined her in ways she never wanted. "Are you all right?" A voice broke through her haze. Maddy turned to see Jack Halston standing nearby with a curious but kind expression. His slow limp caught her attention, but it was his eyes that intrigued her most. They held an understanding that felt almost soothing amid her turmoil. I thought I'd find a new life here," she managed to reply, her voice barely above a whisper. The vulnerability in her words hung heavy between them. Jack nodded, his gaze lingering on her scar without judgment. "You deserve that," he said gently. "Everyone deserves a chance." Maddy's heart flickered with hope at his words. It was something she hadn't felt since stepping off the train, feeling that perhaps not everyone would see her scar before they saw her heart. "I don't understand," she replied, swallowing hard against the lump in her throat. "He saw me and just turned away." "What you see as a flaw is merely a part of your story," Jack said thoughtfully, taking a step closer. His voice was low but steady, inviting her to open up even further. "I've learned that scars can show strength rather than weakness." She blinked, surprised by his insight. It was not something she had ever considered. But everyone else sees it as ugly. "Maybe," Jack conceded, "but those who truly matter will see past it and recognize your worth." Maddy felt herself leaning toward him slightly, drawn in by the warmth radiating off his words. There was something deeply comforting about being understood even by someone who appeared to carry his own burdens. "So what do you think I should do now?" Maddy asked, feeling a sudden urge to share more of herself with him. "After being rejected?" "First," Jack said slowly, "give yourself time to grieve over the loss of what you thought would be." His honesty brought tears to the corners of her eyes. "Then, consider what you want for your future beyond this moment." Taking a deep breath, Maddy felt courage stir within her as she began to envision the possibilities ahead. "I suppose I could explore Nevada, see what life has to offer besides heartbreak." Jack's eyes twinkled with encouragement. "That sounds like a good idea," he affirmed. "Perhaps you'll find something or someone who recognizes the beauty in you." She smiled faintly at that thought, imagining running through wildflower fields under expansive skies filled with dreams waiting to be uncovered. Jack stepped back slightly, giving Maddy space to breathe and ponder. As the minutes passed like seconds entwined together in fate's hands, she could no longer deny the uneasy fluttering in her own heart, an unfamiliar yearning for more than just existence. It was a desire to thrive. "Do you have any plans?" Maddy asked tentatively. She knew little about this man who stood beside her, but sensed he carried weighty stories and buried emotions too. Jack shook his head slowly. "Not really. I'm just trying to leave my past behind." "Why? What happened?" Her curiosity grew despite herself. Jack hesitated for a moment, his expression shifting toward guardedness before he finally replied. "I've seen things in my life that would give most nightmares." He glanced away momentarily, as if wrestling with ghosts lingering somewhere beyond them. "You can trust me," Maddy said softly, wanting him to know he didn't have to shield himself from her curiosity or experiences shaped by pain like hers. Jack looked back at her as though weighing the sincerity in her eyes against years filled with mistrust conveyed by others. He took a steadying breath before he spoke again. Sometimes when you live through battles outside yourself, you try to hide from facing them internally. Oh, encouraged by his honesty, Maddy felt warmth blooming in her chest again, a connection igniting brightly against shadows cast by moments past, flaring forth, walking fiercely forward, alive. If we keep moving forward from here, Jack continued thoughtfully, who knows where we might end up? Soaring visions arose within Maddy. They danced warmly around shimmering lights, sparkling brightly, inviting chance, igniting wishes, sheltered safely, glowing, colorfully, kindling, patchwork, stitched anew, binding cloaks wrapped from real petals, awakening, quietly vibrating. Closeness woven together. With newfound determination lighting fire beneath footfalls, carefully crafting paths onward, exploring mystery lovingly garnered, weaving memories cherished, adventures swaddled, embracing joy painted strong red bright, climbing onward. Most vibrantly existing, always finding rhythm, breezy, whimsical dancing, crossing fears tended softly, holding tight, futures spun bright, surely ahead, echoing deep, promising laughs, soothing, cherishing lives lived. Maddy stood still on the platform, her suitcase heavy in her grip, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The dust kicked up by passing horses and bustling townsfolk settled around her like a shroud, isolating her from the vibrant life moving around. She felt invisible, as if she had been cast adrift in an unfamiliar sea with no anchor in sight. The heartache from Samuel's rejection cut deeper than any physical pain she had endured. She could still hear his voice in her mind, laced with disbelief and disappointment. "I didn't expect," he had muttered as he turned away. Those words echoed in her thoughts, a cruel reminder that she was no longer the woman who had excitedly boarded the train in Boston. Maddy glanced at her reflection in a nearby window, a face partially obscured by the scar that marred her beauty. It seemed to morph into a stranger's visage, one filled with sorrow and shame. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to push away the pitying looks she imagined on the faces around her. Each gaze felt like a verdict, each whisper a judgment passed without knowing her story. As the crowd moved past, laughter and chatter filled the air, further deepening her sense of isolation. Mothers called after their children, ranchers discussed prices, and travelers shared tales of adventure, all while she stood alone, clinging to her suitcase like a lifeline. The noise swallowed her whole, drowning out any flicker of hope that dared to rise within. With every heartbeat, Maddy felt emotions bubbling just beneath the surface. She was terrified that at any moment she would burst into tears in front of all these strangers. Instead, she steadied herself and hugged her suitcase tighter, reminding herself that this journey was meant to bring new beginnings. Yet here she was, teetering on the brink of despair instead. Maddy felt a sudden urge to flee back onto the train and return to Boston's familiar streets where she had been known as just another face among many. But something stopped her. Perhaps it was Jack's earlier words that lingered in her mind. "You're not broken." They wrapped around her heart like a soft blanket against the harshness she felt inside. "Excuse me," came Jack's gentle voice again, cutting through her thoughts like a knife. She turned to see him approaching, his slow limp barely noticeable as determination radiated from him. "Are you sure you're all right?" "I'm fine," Maddy replied defensively, though her voice wavered. She wished she could sound more convincing, but the truth was that she felt anything but fine. Jack studied her for a moment before speaking again. "You don't have to pretend with me," he said gently. "It's okay to be upset." She sighed deeply, feeling exhaustion wash over her. I thought I had found love," Maddy admitted quietly, vulnerability creeping into her tone. Jack nodded slowly, his expression empathetic. "Sometimes we build up these dreams in our minds, only for them to come crashing down." Maddy's heart sank further at his words. They mirrored her own feelings too closely. "What am I supposed to do now?" she asked, desperately. "Start by taking care of yourself," Jack replied earnestly, his eyes sincere. "Allow yourself time to grieve what was lost." His calm demeanor encouraged Maddy to take a small step toward opening up further. "I feel so lost. I came here seeking a new life, and now I have nothing." "You have your life," Jack pointed out gently. It may not look how you planned it, but it's still yours to shape. His conviction struck a chord deep within. Madisha had always been determined. Perhaps this setback could lead her down another path altogether. What if I want to explore? What if I want something different? Maddy asked softly, as ideas began swirling in her mind. Then you do it, Jack urged, with a hint of fervor in his voice. Sometimes those unexpected turns lead us exactly where we need to go. She felt a flicker of excitement ignite within her heart at his encouragement, a tiny flame rising against the cold embrace of despair surrounding her. The thought of adventure filled her thoughts. Perhaps there were wildflower fields waiting for her beyond the city limits, or hidden trails through mountains yet untouched by time. Would you join me? Maddy asked suddenly, surprising herself with the request. Jack raised an eyebrow, but smiled warmly. I think that would be a good idea. As they began walking together away from the depot, Maddy felt something shift inside, an unspoken bond forming between them. With every step they took into the unknown, hope bloomed anew in the corners of her heart. Where should we start? She asked as they ventured deeper into town. Jack shrugged lightly, but his eyes sparkled with mischief. How about we explore the marketplace? I hear there are some great vendors and stories waiting to be uncovered. Maddy laughed softly for the first time since arriving. It felt refreshing against her troubled spirit. Together they moved forward into the lively marketplace, awash with colors and sounds that felt welcoming instead of overwhelming. It was as if they were shedding old skin each step, breathing life into dreams long forgotten. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and warmth radiating from strangers enjoying their day, Maddy realized that perhaps this journey could lead her somewhere wonderful after all, somewhere beyond heartbreak and toward healing and happiness waiting patiently just around every corner. As Maddy stood there, lost in the haze of her thoughts, she felt a presence beside her. Jack Halston approached slowly, his demeanor quiet and unassuming, almost like a shadow slipping into the light. The way he carried himself, despite the limp that gave away some past injury, spoke of resilience and strength. His eyes, however, were what captured Maddy's attention most. They held depths that seemed to be haunted by experiences far beyond his years, as if he had witnessed things that would shake anyone to their core. "Are you all right?" he asked gently, his voice calm and soothing amid the chaos surrounding them. Maddy turned to him, surprised by his sudden appearance. There was something about Jack that drew her in. Perhaps it was the kindness radiating from his expression or the way he looked at her, with genuine concern rather than pity. "I'm just trying to figure things out," she replied, feeling her defenses lower slightly. Jack nodded knowingly, as if he understood more than she could articulate. Sometimes life throws us curveballs we never expect. It can feel overwhelming. His words resonated with Maddy, echoing her own turmoil. She sensed that Jack had his share of burdens hidden beneath his composed exterior. "You could say that," she murmured, glancing back down at her suitcase, which felt heavier than ever. "I thought I was starting a new life here." Jack shifted slightly, leaning against a nearby post for support. "New beginnings can often come disguised as endings," he said thoughtfully. "It's how we navigate through those moments that defines us." Maddy was taken aback by his insight. It felt refreshing to hear someone speak so candidly about struggles instead of glossing over them with empty platitudes. "What makes you say that?" she asked curiously. Jack hesitated, eyes flickering with memories best kept buried. "I've had my share of experiences," he began slowly, "things I wouldn't wish on anyone else." He paused, as if weighing whether to continue. "But every challenge has taught me something about strength, resilience, and the importance of embracing who you are." Maddy studied him closely. Under the layers of mystery surrounding Jack was a man who carried stories etched into his very being. "You seem to have found a way to carry your scars well," she observed quietly. A flicker of a smile crossed Jack's lips. "We all have our scars," he admitted. "Some are just more visible than others." For the first time since arriving in Nevada, Maddy felt a tiny seed of hope begin to bloom within her heart. There was something reassuring about Jack's presence, a quiet strength that made her feel less alone in this vast and overwhelming world. "Why did you come out here?" she asked, intrigued by this man who seemed to understand her plight, without needing to know all the details. Jack glanced away for a moment, lost in thought before he responded. I came west to escape my past to find a fresh start away from everything I knew. His voice lowered slightly, as if sharing a secret meant only for her ears. Sometimes running isn't about fleeing, it's about finding yourself. Maddy felt tears brimming in her eyes again, not from sadness this time, but from an unexpected kinship with him. She realized that despite their different circumstances, both sought solace from wounds too deep to reveal fully. "What should I do now?" she asked softly, feeling vulnerable, yet trusting enough to seek guidance from this stranger. "Take your time," Jack suggested gently. "Allow yourself to feel whatever you need to feel right now." He gestured toward the bustling crowd around them. "And when you're ready, explore what this place has to offer." With every word he spoke, Maddy felt a little lighter the burden of rejection, slowly lifting as fresh possibilities began to unfold before her eyes. "What if I want to take risks?" she mused aloud, imagining herself wandering through vibrant marketplaces or wildflower fields under the open sky. "Then, embrace those risks," Jack encouraged with a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Sometimes the best adventures come when we step beyond our comfort zones." As they stood together on that platform, their pasts entwined with their present, Maddy realized that perhaps this unexpected encounter held the key to unlocking doors she never knew existed. Would you mind showing me around?" she asked unexpectedly, emboldened by newfound courage bubbling within her. Jack raised an eyebrow but didn't hesitate long before responding with warmth in his eyes. "I'd be happy to." Together they began walking away from the depot and toward the heart of town. The chatter of townsfolk grew louder as they ventured deeper into the vibrant marketplace filled with color and life, a stark contrast against Maddy's earlier feelings of despair. For the first time since stepping off the train, Maddy allowed herself to breathe deeply and relish the possibilities ahead. The laughter of children playing nearby, mixed with enticing aromas wafting from food stalls, created an atmosphere ripe for discovery. With Jack by her side, a quiet companion whose wisdom felt like an anchor amid uncertainty, Maddy stepped boldly into this new chapter of her life, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As Maddy walked alongside Jack through the vibrant marketplace, the sound of laughter and the scent of freshly baked bread filled the air, slowly lifting some of the weight that had pressed down on her since arriving in Nevada. She felt a growing sense of excitement as they ventured further, but beneath that excitement lay the remnants of her heartache, still raw and unsettling. "Have you lived here long?" Maddy asked, trying to steer the conversation away from her own troubles and learn more about this intriguing man beside her. Jack chuckled softly, a sound that felt comforting amidst the clamor around them. "Long enough to know that every corner has its stories," he replied, "but I'm still figuring out where I fit in all of this." Maddy nodded, sensing a shared struggle between them two souls navigating their pasts in search of belonging. "I feel so lost," she admitted, vulnerability slipping into her voice again. "Coming here was supposed to be a fresh start for me, but now I just feel like I've failed before I even began." Jack stopped walking and turned to face her fully, his expression serious yet gentle. "You haven't failed," he said firmly. "Every scar tells a story. Yours is no different." Maddy looked up at him, surprised by his intensity. "I don't know if I can believe that," she murmured. "I've seen worse scars on better men," Jack stated plainly, his eyes locking onto hers with a sincerity that made her heart skip a beat. "What you see as a flaw is simply part of your journey, a mark of survival." His words struck deep within Maddy's heart, like an arrow finding its target. She thought back to Samuel's horrified expression and how it had made her feel broken and unworthy. But here was Jack offering not just understanding but also validation. "What do you mean by better men?" she asked softly, wanting to know more about this man who seemed to have faced his own demons. Jack hesitated for a moment and then sighed deeply as if preparing to share something heavy. "I once led a gang," he admitted quietly. "We did things we weren't proud of, things that left scars both inside and out." He glanced away briefly, lost in memories he couldn't quite shake off before looking back at her with renewed determination in his gaze. But those experiences taught me resilience. Maddy listened intently as Jack continued, feeling drawn into the depth of his story. The world sees our scars differently. Some use them as weapons against us while others find strength in them. He paused again before adding softly, "It's up to us which voice we choose to listen to." As she absorbed his words, something shifted within Maddy. A flicker of newfound confidence began stirring inside her chest like embers, waiting for kindling. Perhaps she could redefine how she viewed her own scarlet as an anchor weighing her down, but as part of who she was meant to become. "I want to believe that," Maddy said cautiously but with hope glimmering behind her words. "Then believe it," Jack encouraged with warmth in his voice. "You're not alone in this fight. You have the power to reshape your narrative." With each passing moment spent in Jack's company, Maddy felt layers of doubt begin peeling away like old paint from weathered wood, revealing something beautiful hidden beneath. "Thank you for saying that," Maddy replied earnestly, feeling gratitude swell within her heart toward this quiet man who had offered comfort when she needed it most. "Let's take it one day at a time," Jack suggested gently as they resumed their walk through the bustling market square, filled with vendors hawking goods and children playing nearby. As they strolled among colorful stalls brimming with fruits and handmade crafts, Maddy allowed herself to embrace the surrounding vibrant scythe colors, brightening her mood with every step forward they took together into this new world awaiting discovery. "Do you remember what you wanted when you first planned your life here?" Jack asked curiously after some moments passed between them, filled only by their footsteps echoing against cobblestones underneath sunlight dancing overhead. Maddy paused thoughtfully before responding. "I wanted love. I wanted security. A place where I belonged." Jack nodded knowingly, as if these sentiments resonated deeply within him too. Perhaps they were not so different after all, despite their disparate paths, leading them toward this very moment now unfolding around them. "And now?" he prompted gently when silence stretched too long between them, invitingly beckoning their own truths forth, blooming alive onward. "I think," Maddy began slowly but firmly, now infused with courage, igniting brighter flame, illuminating possibilities, sparkling brightly throughout horizons ahead. "I want adventure. I want to discover who I am beyond just being someone's bride." Jack smiled wide at hearing those words brought forth by determination, woven tightly imbued into each syllable spoken aloud, finally claiming ownership over dreams, beckoning fiercely alive, urging exploration, forging fresh trails, gleaming beautifully anew, embracing life, unbound, soaring free, reaching heights never imagined before. "Then, let's find that adventure together," he declared enthusiastically, extending an invitation wrapped warmly around promise, sparkling brightly, lighting pathways ahead. For the first time since stepping off the train into uncertainty, held tightly inside, ventured bubbling fervently forward, onward living vibrantly under open skies, painted joyously across vast landscapes, shared hearts, intertwined amidst laughter, ringing sweetly bright dances, echoing ever higher, chasing dreams unleashed boldly, unraveling tales, untold waiting patiently beneath starlit heavens, twinkling brightly calling forth two souls destined crossing paths stepping freely. Boldly united, forging ahead following whispers carried gently upon fragrant winds, weaving stories forever cherished, spinning eternally onward. As Maddy and Jack wandered through the bustling marketplace, the vibrant atmosphere seemed to breathe life into Maddy's weary spirit. The colors of the stalls, filled with ripe fruits and handmade crafts, swirled around them like a kaleidoscope of possibility. Laughter echoed from nearby children playing, and for the first time since stepping off the train, Maddy felt a flicker of joy ignite deep within her. "Tell me more about yourself," she urged Jack, curious about the man who had offered her kindness when she needed it most. "You mentioned that you led a gang. What was that like?" Jack hesitated for a moment, his eyes clouding as memories washed over him. "It wasn't glamorous," he began slowly. "We did things out of desperation, things I regret deeply." Maddy watched him closely, sensing the weight of his past pressing on him like a heavy cloak. "But you survived," she said softly, wanting to reassure him. "You're here now." He nodded, taking in her words as if they were a balm for old wounds. Survival doesn't come without its scars, he replied, looking into the distance as if searching for answers hidden in the horizon. But those experiences shaped me into who I am today. Maddy felt an unexpected kinship with Jack. They were both navigating their own pasts while striving to find their places in this new world. I guess we're not so different after all, she said quietly. No, we're not, Jack agreed, turning to face her fully again. We've both faced challenges that left marks on our souls. His gaze softened as he added, and it's okay to carry those marks. A silence settled between them, a comfortable pause, where understanding bloomed like wildflowers in springtime. Maddy took a deep breath and decided to share more about herself. I worked at a factory back in Boston, she began hesitantly. One day there was an accident, a fire broke out and I was caught in it. Jack's expression shifted to one of concern as he listened intently. That scar, it's from that? He asked gently. Maddy nodded, feeling vulnerable but also relieved to speak about it openly for the first time since arriving in Nevada. Samuel saw it and just turned away. The pain of rejection resurfaced briefly before she pushed it aside. That's his loss, Jack said firmly, his voice unwavering with conviction. You are so much more than your scars. He paused before continuing with heartfelt sincerity. You have survived something terrible and emerged stronger. Maddy felt tears prickling at her eyes as gratitude welled up inside her heart. Jack's words were like sunlight breaking through dark clouds, lingering above her mind. For so long she had seen herself as broken, someone defined by what had happened to her, but maybe there was another way to see it. Thank you for saying that, she replied softly, feeling emboldened by his support. Let's promise each other something, Jack suggested suddenly, as they resumed walking through the market filled with life all around them. What do you mean? Maddy asked curiously. We should promise not to let our pasts define us anymore, he stated earnestly. Instead, let's choose who we want to be moving forward. A smile broke across Maddy's face. His words resonated deeply within her spirit, sparking hope anew amid uncertainty swirling beneath everything else surrounding them. It felt liberating to shed old identities and embrace possibilities ahead together. I promise, she exclaimed with enthusiasm bubbling up from within her heart. And I promise too, Jack responded warmly. Joy danced behind his eyes as they walked side by side, weaving through laughter, echoing vibrantly throughout busy stalls, filled brimming colors, bright alive against gray shadows, previously cast overhead slowly letting go, lifting away. Freeing light, illuminating pathways wide open, beckoning brightly, inviting adventure anew, welcoming breaths, fresh clean air, sparkling glances, exchanged, eagerly shared between two kindred souls, embarking boldly together onward forging. Ahead. As they continued their stroll through lively surroundings, alive, bursting forth dreams long unspoken, waiting, patiently nestled, deep yearning exploration, Maddy found herself laughing at little things, a child chasing after a runaway balloon, or vendors playfully calling out price, unearthing buried feelings, buried under layers, once heavy, revealing brighter spirits rising, soaring higher within hearts, joined together seeking joy, amid simple pleasures found amidst shared moments. Lived fully embraced, fearlessly, spinning tales woven beautifully toward horizons, endless promising futures, shimmering brightly ahead. Where should we go next? Maddy asked with excitement bubbling forth, now embracing every moment spent, exploring alongside Jack the thrill of adventure, awakening something long dormant inside her eager spirit, ready to discover what lay beyond every corner turning. Vibrant, under warm, radiant sun, shining brightly overhead, inviting paths unfolding endlessly, awaiting exploration. How about we check out that bakery? Jack suggested playfully, pointing at a nearby stall where sweet aromas wafted enticingly into the air, mingled delightfully, invitingly beckoning toward baked goods, tantalizingly displayed, exquisitely crafted, tempting each delicate morsel. Wrapped snugly, inviting indulgences, fresh, baked, served, warm, awaiting hands, eager, willing, reach forth, tasting sweetness, shared together, savoring flavors, mingling laughter, lightheartedness, cherished dining experiences, potential crafted, simply beautiful lives, woven close-knit, knitted, tightly sharing essence, breathing life, richly intertwined stories forever, cherished, created colorfully anew, forever. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the marketplace, and Maddy felt lighter than she had in days as she strolled alongside Jack. Laughter filled the air as children played nearby, and the enticing aroma of baked goods wafted from a nearby stall. Just as they were about to approach a vendor selling pastries, that comforting atmosphere shattered like glass against the hard ground. "Madeline," a familiar voice called out, breaking through the cheerful noise of the marketplace. Maddy's heart sank as she recognized Samuel striding toward them. He looked disheveled, his expression a mix of urgency and unease. "What do you want?" Maddy blurted, her voice catching in her throat as anger bubbled up within her. The day had been so bright, and now it felt overshadowed by the return of the very person who had brought her so much pain. "Maddy, please," Samuel said, breathless as he came to a stop in front of her. "I need to talk to you." Jack took a protective step closer to Maddy, his presence a comforting wall between her and the man who had rejected her so cruelly. "I don't think she wants to speak with you," Jack stated firmly, his tone leaving no room for argument. "It's all right, Jack," Maddy interjected, her heart pounding in her chest. She wanted to be strong, but facing Samuel again felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. "I can handle this." Samuel's eyes darted between them, confusion and desperation clearly etched on his face. "I just want to make things right," he pleaded, looking directly at Maddy. "I was wrong to turn my back on you. I see that now." Maddy folded her arms tightly across her chest, the walls she had built around herself fluttering slightly but remaining intact. "You didn't even give me a chance," she replied coldly. "You walked away without a second thought." "I know, and I regret it more than you can imagine," he insisted, stepping back as if trying to physically distance himself from his previous actions. "When I saw you standing there, it was so overwhelming. I didn't know how to react." "And now that you do?" Maddy asked sharply, feeling an odd mix of emotions swirling within her anger, sadness, but also an unexpected yearning for validation. "I realized that I was only thinking about myself," Samuel admitted, vulnerability creeping into his voice. "I was ashamed of what others would think, but seeing you here now, I understand what I lost." Maddy's heart raced at his admission. Shame was a powerful motivator, but did he really care for her, or was this an attempt to alleviate his guilt? She looked over at Jack, whose steady gaze remained fixed on Samuel, as if silently urging Maddy to choose wisely. "Do you think an apology can just erase everything?" Maddy asked, a mixture of skepticism and hope lacing her words. "No," Samuel replied earnestly, "but I'm asking for another chance to show you that I've changed." Maddy felt torn in that moment. Part of her craved the love and security she imagined they could have shared, while another part of her felt anger flared deep inside for how easily he had dismissed her before. The weight of those emotions pressed down like a storm cloud looming overhead. "Look," Jack interjected calmly but firmly, "you hurt her when you rejected her. That's not something easily overlooked." "I understand that," Samuel retorted, frustration creeping into his voice. "But I can't lose her again without trying." Maddy took in Jack's steady presence beside her, quiet strength that made her feel less alone amid the chaos swirling around them. "This isn't just about you anymore," she said finally, looking directly into Samuel's eyes. "This is about me, about what I want." "And what do you want?" Samuel asked tentatively. "I want to reclaim my life," Maddy replied with newfound clarity, remembering all Jack had taught her since they met to view her scars not as burdens but as parts of her journey. "I thought I wanted your love, but now I see that I need to love myself first." Samuel hesitated, hurt flickering across his face as he processed her words. "Maddy." "Enough," she interrupted firmly with shaking resolve. "You had your chance when you turned your back on me." The silence that followed felt heavy as Samuel absorbed the weight of her decision. Sometimes, we must let go of what holds us back, even if it hurts. Jack said softly, stepping forward slightly to stand beside Maddy. Seeing them together sparked another wave of emotion within Maddy, sense of connection she hadn't felt before. In Jack's eyes shone not only support, but also encouragement for a brighter future, filled with possibilities beyond the heartbreak she'd known. "Maybe one day we can be friends," she offered cautiously to Samuel as he stood frozen in place, battling between acceptance and denial of reality, unfolding starkly before him. Samuel nodded slowly but didn't speak. His silence spoke volumes instead, contrasting sharply against vibrant colors surrounding them, swirling invitingly, beckoning joyously, moving forward, intertwining richly together, breathing life anew, woven tightly throughout shared moments. Ever more brightly filled, shining paths, inviting, always endlessly exploring beyond tears, softly shed, forging fiercely onward, lived vibrantly, treasured eternally. With that resolution, Maddy turned away from him, the weight on her shoulders, lightening with every step, while embracing possibilities, bustling onward. Ahead, shimmering brightly once more, urging adventures await, woven intricately, forever cherished, dancing along. Winding paths, uncharted, promising futures, glimmering, invitingly, beckoning new journeys, shared side by side, illuminating hearts profoundly unbound. Maddy stood with Jack, her heart racing as Samuel confronted her. The bustling marketplace, filled with laughter and lively chatter, suddenly felt stiflingly quiet. Maddy's emotions swirled like autumn leaves caught in a brisk wind, anger, confusion, and a hint of nostalgia battling for dominance. "I just want a chance to explain," Samuel insisted, desperation creeping into his voice. Maddy could see the guilt etched on his face, but that didn't erase the hurt he had caused her. Jack remained close to Maddy, his presence a silent shield against the turmoil unfolding before them. "You had your chance when you turned away from her," he stated firmly, eyes narrowing as he directed his gaze at Samuel. "You don't get to just come back now because you feel ashamed." Maddy felt a surge of gratitude toward Jack. His unwavering support bolstered her resolve to stand firm. She had spent too long feeling like she was less than enough, and now that she had begun to regain her confidence, she was determined not to let Samuel's presence sway her. "Do you really think an apology can undo everything?" she asked Samuel sharply. "You didn't even give me a moment to prove myself before you walked away." "I regret it every day," Samuel pressed on, searching for any semblance of understanding in her eyes. "I've realized how wrong I was to judge you based on your scar." Maddy looked down at the ground beneath her feet, remembering how that scar had become a symbol of shame when it should have been one of survival. In that moment of reflection, she recalled all the kindness Jack had shown her during their time together, how he had helped her see that there was strength in her story. "You say you understand now," Maddy continued, lifting her gaze back to meet Samuel's. "But what about before? You let fear dictate your actions without considering what I was going through." Jack shifted closer, providing reassurance with his steady presence as Maddy held her ground. "You don't owe him anything," Jack said quietly but firmly, his voice underscoring the truth of Maddy's feelings. Samuel looked torn between regret and frustration. Emotions flickered across his face as if he were grappling with the weight of his choices. "I just thought." "You thought wrong," Maddy cut him off sharply. "You didn't consider how your actions impacted me or how they would affect our future." Her heart raced as she spoke. This confrontation was stirring up long, buried feelings but also strengthening her resolve to take charge of her life. "Letting go is hard," Jack interjected softly, his tone gentle yet strong. "But sometimes it's necessary for both parties to move forward without being tied down by past mistakes." At that moment, Maddy felt a shift within herself, a realization that reclaiming her life meant letting go of what no longer served her. Despite the hurt she felt from Samuel's rejection and his sudden return, she also recognized that she had grown since then. "I need to do what's best for me," Maddy declared confidently, turning fully toward Samuel. "And holding on to you will only drag me back into the pain I've worked hard to overcome." Samuel opened his mouth as if to protest, but found no words left to argue against her decision. His silence spoke volumes as he absorbed the weight of what they had lost and what they might never regain. "Maybe one day we can be friends." Maddy offered cautiously. It was more than she thought she might ever want again after everything they'd shared, a flicker of hope glimmering amidst the ashes of their past. Friends? He echoed incredulously, hope mingling with disbelief across his features. Yes, after time has passed and wounds have healed, Maddy clarified gently. But right now, she needed space to breathe freely and rediscover who she was without the shadow of their relationship hanging over her. She stepped away from him slowly, feeling lighter with each step. Every inch separating them felt like shedding old skin, long worn, out revealing vibrant, new layers alive, bursting forth filled with possibilities ahead, shimmering brightly, inviting adventures waiting just beyond every corner, beckoning, warmly calling, encouraging discoveries, unfolding, promising futures, a live testament to resilience nurtured, deeply intertwined. As she turned back toward Jack, standing resolutely beside her through thick and thin, every challenge faced, boldly lived, fiercely sparkling, radiantly bright. I'm ready for whatever comes next, Maddy said quietly but firmly, now infused with courage, reflecting brightly in those clear skies overhead, inviting journeys awaiting, undoubtedly enticing fate, awaiting paths forged beautifully, ahead shared intimately hand in hand. Discovering treasures woven tenderly, memories, cherished living vibrantly. Jack smiled warmly at hearing those words, uplifted by newfound courage, spreading joy deep into their entwined spirits, forged steadfastly together, building futures shimmering endlessly, profoundly bright. With that single step taken forward free from chains, once binding memories deeply entrenched flowed forth vibrantly, rising, blossoming, gracefully woven, brightly, eternally, chasing dreams. Untold, woven beautifully onward, living stories. Cherished. Maddy took a deep breath, trying to steady herself as she faced Samuel, the man who had cast her aside without a second thought. The bustling marketplace around them was now a blur. All that mattered was this moment, the confrontation that would define her future. She felt Jack's reassuring presence beside her, and it gave her the strength she needed to stand firm. Please, Maddy, Samuel urged again, desperation evident in his voice. I just want to make things right between us. I've realized how wrong I was. Maddy felt her heart twist at his words. They echoed with the painful memories of rejection and shame that had haunted her since that fateful day. You think an apology can erase everything? She asked, anger and hurt lacing her tone. You walked away without giving me a chance. I know, he replied, his voice tinged with regret. I didn't understand what I was throwing away, but now I see how strong you are, how beautiful you are. Her mind raced with conflicting emotions. Part of her wanted to believe him, to grasp onto the hope that maybe things could be different. But another part of her remembered the pain of his rejection and how quickly he had dismissed her without consideration. Do you think your guilt gives you the right to come back into my life? Maddy challenged, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. You don't get to decide my worth based on your shame. Jack stepped forward slightly, his posture protective and fierce as he addressed Samuel. You hurt her deeply when you walked away, and that's not something easily forgotten, he stated firmly. There was no room for argument in his tonally unwavering support for Maddy. I just wanted a chance to show you I've changed, Samuel pleaded again, glancing between Maddy and Jack in an attempt to gain some understanding or empathy. Maddy shook her head slowly, feeling clarity wash over her like a refreshing wave. I need more than words, she said firmly. I need to reclaim my life without being tied to the pain you caused me. Samuel opened his mouth as if to protest, but found himself at a loss for words. Maddy's strength stunned him into silence. It was clear he hadn't expected this confrontation to unfold, as it had. She was no longer the woman he could easily dismiss. This is about me now, Maddy continued, emboldened by Jack's presence beside her. I spent too long feeling ashamed of what happened to me, and I refuse to go back to that life. Jack nodded in agreement, proud of Maddy for standing up for herself. You're not defined by your past or by anyone else's perceptions, he added softly but firmly. You are so much more than what others see. I thought I wanted love from you, Maddy said, looking directly at Samuel now with unwavering resolve. But I realize now that true love starts with loving myself first. The silence stretched between them as Samuel absorbed her words, regret flickering across his face like a candle struggling against the wind. He looked small and defeated in that moment, someone who had lost sight of what truly mattered. Maybe one day we can be friends, she offered cautiously, wanting to leave room for healing but also recognizing that friendship would take time if it were ever even possible. Friends? He echoed incredulously, disbelief mingling with hope across his features. Yes, once time has passed and wounds have healed, Maddy clarified gently but firmly. She needed space now to breathe freely, rediscover who she was, without being overshadowed by their shared past. As she turned away from him slowly, relief washed over her like sunlight breaking through clouds, the weight of old memories lifting with each step she took away from him and toward Jack. Maddy, Samuel called after her, but she didn't look back. She remained focused on Jack's steady presence beside her, a reminder of how far she had come since their paths intertwined. With every step away from Samuel, Maddy felt lighter. Each inch separating them felt like shedding old skin long worn out, revealing vibrant new layers alive with possibilities ahead. I'm ready for whatever comes next, she declared quietly but confidently as they walked side by side through the lively marketplace, filled with laughter and warmth surrounding them, like a comforting embrace, inviting resilience alive bursting forth. Jack smiled warmly at those words, echoing reassurance, encompassing their journey together, a testament to the strength built through shared experiences navigating uncharted terrains. Together they ventured forth towards adventures waiting just beyond every corner, beckoning brightly, sparkling glimmers inviting renewed hope soaring high above. As they strolled deeper into the marketplace, filled with colors and sounds alive, dancing vibrantly around them, their paths intertwined, resonated stories woven beautifully that would forever shape their lives, moving onward ever brighter, toward horizons, endless promising futures, flourishing abundantly, unfolding gloriously, before them illuminated brightly, embarking boldly, embracing opportunities, awaiting eagerly, discovering treasures cherished along every winding road. Ahead. As Maddy turned her back on Samuel, a wave of relief washed over her, mingling with a sense of newfound strength. The bustling marketplace, which had felt suffocating moments ago, now brimmed with life and possibility. Maddy glanced at Jack beside her. His steady presence reinforced her resolve, reminding her that she was not alone in this journey. "Thank you for being here," she said quietly, her heart full of gratitude. "I don't think I could have faced him without your support." Jack offered her a warm smile, the kind that spoke volumes about his understanding and encouragement. "You're stronger than you realize, Maddy. It takes courage to confront your past and choose a different future." Taking a deep breath, Maddy felt the weight of the moment settle into a sense of liberation. She had stood up for herself and made the choice to prioritize her own happiness, rather than return to a life filled with shame and regret. It was a pivotal turning point, one that would shape the course of her life moving forward. "Where do we go from here?" she asked, excitement bubbling within her as she looked around at the colorful stalls and lively atmosphere. Jack considered her question for a moment, his eyes scanning the vibrant scene before them. "How about we explore this marketplace? There's so much more to see: vendors selling fresh produce, artisans displaying their crafts, and who knows what other adventures await us." Maddy felt a thrill run through her at the prospect of embarking on this new adventure. "That sounds perfect," she exclaimed, feeling lighter than she had in days. "Let's see what this place has to offer." As they walked together through the marketplace, Maddy let herself be swept up in the joy of discovery. The chatter of vendors hawking their goods filled the air, mingling with the laughter of children playing nearby. Each step they took felt like a reaffirmation of her decision to embrace life wholeheartedly. "What do you love most about this place?" Maddy asked Jack as they paused by a stall overflowing with vibrant fruits. "I love how alive it feels," he replied thoughtfully. "Every corner holds a story waiting to be told, a glimpse into someone's life or dreams." Maddy nodded, feeling inspired by his perspective. She realized that she had spent too long feeling like an outsider in her own life, instead of embracing the stories she could create moving forward. "I want to write my own story now," she declared, determination shining in her eyes. Jack smiled at her words, clearly proud of Maddy's growth. "You already are," he encouraged as they continued to stroll past stalls filled with handmade trinkets and delicious scents wafting through the air. They stopped at a bakery where warm bread loaves were being pulled from the oven. The inviting aroma enveloped them like a cozy hug. Maddy's mouth watered at the sight of pastries, glazed with sweet icing and sprinkled with nuts. "Can we try some?" Maddy asked eagerly, her mood buoyed by excitement and hunger. "Absolutely," Jack replied, reaching into his pocket for coins as they approached the vendor. As they enjoyed their treats, flaky pastries bursting with fruit filling, Maddy couldn't shake off the feeling that this was just the beginning for her. With each bite, she tasted freedom. It was almost as if the flavors were reminding her that she deserved sweetness in life, after all she had endured. "I feel like I'm finally waking up," Maddy admitted, as they moved away from the stall, savoring every moment spent together. Jack looked at her knowingly. "You've stepped out of your past and into your future," he said softly, his eyes gleaming with pride. "Thank you for helping me see that," Maddy replied sincerely. She realized that Jack had been more than just a companion. He had become a catalyst for change in her life, a reminder that strength comes from within and that true worth is not determined by others' perceptions. As they continued exploring the market together, Maddy felt an unbreakable bond forming between them, a connection forged through shared experiences and mutual understanding. Each story exchanged only deepened their friendship as they navigated through stalls filled with treasures that mirrored their own journeys toward healing. Hours passed swiftly as they wandered hand in hand through the marketplace, each moment reinforcing their camaraderie while igniting sparks of adventure within their hearts. They laughed over silly anecdotes shared by vendors and marveled at handmade crafts that represented dreams woven into reality. Eventually, Maddy paused beside a stall, adorned with colorful fabrics flowing softly in the breeze. "I want to try something new," she said suddenly, pointing to a beautiful shawl hanging gracefully from the display. Jack chuckled lightly at her enthusiasm. "Let's do it. Try it on." With newfound confidence bubbling inside her, Maddy stepped forward to try on the shawl. It enveloped her in warmth, as if embracing all parts of herself, the scars and stories alike, and reminding her of how far she had come. Standing before Jack with fabric draped elegantly over her shoulders, Maddy caught sight of herself reflected in a nearby mirror. For the first time in ages, she didn't see just a scarred woman. She saw someone strong and resilient, someone ready to embrace whatever came next. "This looks beautiful on you," Jack said sincerely, admiration shining brightly in his eyes. Maddy smiled widely at his words. It felt like validation wrapped tenderly within newfound acceptance, a symbol of hope illuminating possibilities awaiting eagerly just ahead. Together, they strode deeper into the heart of Nevada's promising landscape, two kindred spirits, embarking on an adventure filled with dreams yet untold, profoundly intertwined destinies, blossoming vibrantly while chasing horizons ever widening, inviting exploration anew.